Hi, this is Tiffany Sicard with HomeKey Mortgage, and you're listening to Local Leaders, the podcast. Every business owner has a story. Let Jim Chapman tell yours.
It's episode 135 of Local Leaders, the podcast, and joining us today, we have Ryan Harrell of Goosehead Insurance. So welcome to Local Leaders, the podcast, first of all.
It's good to be here. Finally, we're able to link up.
Yes.
After a few mishaps and busy schedules. And
look, a lot has happened. We've had like storms and life, Ryan, in general sometimes gets in the way. But yes, we are finally together, and we're going to talk all about Goosehead Insurance, all the exciting things that y'all do over there at Goosehead. You have a lot of different options for insurance over there, and so we want to cover that in detail. But first, we want to get a little background on you, talk a little bit about your history, and I guess we can start with where you were born and raised.
Sure. So born in Zachary, Louisiana, which is just north of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Not a very big town, so everybody knew everybody.
Yeah. And it has grown.
Oh, exponentially. I drove through I don't go there often anymore now that I'm a Livingston Parish resident.
Yes.
I try to stay out here, but drove through the other day, and the traffic is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's grown by leaps and bounds. Look, some of the best schools in the state of Louisiana by far. No doubt about it.
After I graduated, they decided to get a whole new school. New football field, new facilities.
They were waiting on you to leave.
They were like, Ryan's gone, guys. Let's go ahead and get this thing going.
No doubt about it. But it's grown. I can remember from my past, life selling paint. I did a lot of paint sales in Zachary. And I would have to go there quite often. And I kind of saw that growth. In your questionnaire that I sent you, I'd asked you a little bit about your upbringing. And you really credited your mother for kind of shaping you in those early formidable years of your life. So I want to hear a little more about Mom. Kind of tell us about her and the strong influence she had on your life early on.
Sure. So my mom, my parents divorced when I was about 6 or so. So my mom and I were kind of, we were a little teen. She was a single mom and whatnot, but she was just a wizard with money. She didn't make a ton, right?
Yeah.
But she was able to, allocate funds and save and manage money so well that I never wanted for much. If I wanted to play baseball, or if I wanted to play basketball, or if I wanted to play golf, whatever I wanted to do, she found a way to make it work.
Wow.
So, huge admiration for my mom and respect. But, she was really influential early on and taught me work ethic and, kept me in church and kept me in school and kept me in sports. So she was instrumental in, I think, the person that I am today for sure.
100%. Now, one thing that I find the most common in business owners, and I've talked to about 130 of them now sitting down in these chairs, is all of them started working really early in life. It wasn't, one thing about today is it seems like kids are kind of getting into the workforce a little later than they used to. And one thing I noticed with you is that you're no exception. At 15, you were working in a construction company that your grandfather had started. So let's talk about that and the value that gave you even today.
Not the funnest job in the world. So cutting your teeth in the construction industry is, it'll make you appreciate any other job.
Yeah.
So, as a kid, we were out there 14, 15 in the summers, me and my cousin, and out there started as a surveyor and then worked our way to the labor crew down they did sewer line mostly.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of mud.
Yeah, down in the poop ditch is what we called it. So we're down there in the mud and, whatever, and worked my way up to become an operator and operate machinery and, so on and so forth. And but in Louisiana, I don't have to tell you the weather is not ideal for construction. It's either 100 and something degrees in the summer and humid, or it's 20 degrees and wet and rainy, and so that just made me really pushed to get my college.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a big convincer that, maybe I don't want to do this my entire life, but a good experience from the aspect of work ethic, I would imagine,
Sure.
and just knowing what a hard day's work feels like, and all of that kind of stuff. And I do, with construction especially, either it's kind of like painting, either people love it or they hate it. There's kind of no in between.
Right.
But you bring up a good point that in Louisiana, it is a situation where there's not a whole lot of ideal conditions for, seems like anything.
Sure.
Weather
My old foreman that used to work out there with me, he was my boss essentially, but he'd always say, "Oh, you'll be back. It's in your blood. Construction's in your blood. It's your family." I'm like, don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be walking back on this job site.
Yeah, well, at least it showed you another side of it, and you pushed for other things. And in 2007, your life kind of took a sharp turn, to say the least. You were involved in a pretty major car accident. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was pretty traumatic. I had just graduated high school. I think I was working at Home Depot at the time.
Yeah.
And I was on my way home from work one night. It was rainy, and the last thing I remember was looking down for a CD. That I'm dating myself, but
yeah,
looking down for a CD.
Yeah.
To slip in but they say I could have fallen asleep, and that's just the last thing I remember or whatever. But anyway, head-on collision. It wasn't pretty. It left me in the hospital for about 6 months or so, and.
Wow.
Surgery on both feet. They cut me open and had to remove my spleen. It was a big deal.
You pushed on, right?
You appreciate a lot more after something like that.
Yeah. And you eventually made it to college, and even after that, and moving right along, 2013, your senior year, tragic circumstances kind of hit you again. You got diagnosed with
Hodgkin's
lymphoma.
Yep.
Tell me about that situation.
Yeah, so you could look at it as either being extremely lucky by surviving the car crash and then surviving cancer, or I'm the most unlucky person in the world.
Yeah, there's all. It's either half full or half empty.
That's
on
right.
That one,
That's
right.
But nobody in my family had ever had cancer, so that was a shock. I just never in a million years would think they would call me and say, "Hey, you're positive for Hodgkin's lymphoma." And I didn't even know what that meant. I said, "What does that mean?" They said, "You have cancer." And my world just came crashing down. I'm like, what happened? Well,
Yeah.
Nobody in my family had cancer. Why me? So obviously I was just, pissed off at the world for weeks and just didn't want to talk to anybody. And you hear the word cancer and you think a death sentence automatically.
Yes.
Because you don't know anything.
Right.
I didn't know anything about cancer at the time. So, and my oncologist said, stay off the internet. Don't look on the internet. Don't, and of course, what do I do? The first thing.
Oh, yeah. You're Googling.
I'm Googling cancer. And you see all these horror stories and whatnot. But anyway, I finally decided either I, carry on with my life, go back to work, finish school, go through the chemo, it is what it is, and make the best of it, or I just stay mad and locked up in my room for the next 6 months or however long this is going to take.
Yeah.
So I did that. I went back and waited tables, and I went back to college, and I did chemo treatments every other week, and it knocked me down for a week, and then about a week later, I'd start feeling good, and I'd go back to work and do it. Just kept leading a normal life as best I could. And then, 6 months later, they told me I was cancer-free.
Wow, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's, and how old were you?
20, I think I was 23.
23. Yeah, young. How did you find out? You just happened to go, you were feeling bad, or?
Actually, no, I wasn't feeling bad at all. I felt completely fine. I had a lump show up on the side of my neck, and I thought it was a cyst. And I remember vividly to this day sitting in Missouri. We were deer hunting at our farm in Missouri, and I was talking to my uncle. I said, "What do you think this is?" And he said, "Oh, it just looks like a little cyst or something. You can cut it out or whatever." So I let it go, of course, because I procrastinate everything. Sure. And if it weren't for my mom staying on me, I'd probably be dead right now because I would have never gone to the doctor.
Wow.
But it got a little bigger and a little bigger, and it got noticeable, and it looked like I was Quasimodo looking out in the mirror, and I was like, all right, something's clearly not right.
Yeah,
this
is normal.
Yeah. So went, and they did 2 needle biopsies, and it came back negative both times. I was like, see, nothing to worry about. I don't have cancer. And she wasn't satisfied. So they cut in and did a tissue biopsy, and they pulled out a piece of it, and that's when it came back positive for cancer.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, so there's a lesson right there for people. If you don't ignore those lumps and things like that, if you get something on you.
Don't ever ignore any. If your body's telling you something, listen, because most of the time it's accurate.
You're 23 years old. You already kind of had two pretty traumatic experiences happen to you, but you, again, push through them, right? You eventually go on to graduate with a degree in business marketing, something I know a little bit about as well, which kind of, this speaks volumes to me about the type of person you are, because you had a lot of choices, man. You just covered a few of them. When you found out that you had cancer, you could have just said, I'm not even going to stick to this school thing anymore, right? You could have just thrown your hands up and said, this is the second time in so many years that I've been kind of knocked down, and really just taken a left turn when you should have took a right turn, sort of speak. And you just pushed through them. So I'd say you were kind of a guy that don't have a whole lot of quit in you. Would that be accurate?
I'd say that's pretty accurate. I mean, I don't even really like to bring it up and talk. There's a lot of people out there that, and I'm not trying to minimize anybody's situation by any means. I'm just not the type of person. I don't like the sympathy. I don't like the doting on you. I don't like, oh my God, congratulations, you beat cancer. That's so amazing. I just don't. Yeah. It is what it is, and it's done. It's in the past. I'm over it. You know? So I just kind of like to move on from that.
Sure.
But I don't like to let it define me, I guess.
Right. But the good thing about it, Ryan, is someone may be seeing this that's kind of in that situation.
Sure.
But they may be taking that left turn because they don't think, people feel like sometimes they lose hope of things. And one thing happens to them, then another thing, and they're just like, well, I can't make a good run of my life because I keep getting knocked down. Mm-hmm. You're just a good example of, sure you can. And you can be a business owner after having these things happen. So I know you're a modest guy, but shout out to you for doing that, because that's a tough thing to do for a lot of people. So at some point you got into the industry that you're in now, which is the insurance industry. Now, it's important to mention that Ryan didn't just jump out of college and go straight into Goosehead. You had a lot of experience under you in the insurance industry prior to owning your own insurance company. And so we won't mention any names, but a large insurance carrier that you worked for how many years?
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years, and kind of, I guess, cut your teeth in that industry. I'm sure learned a lot of things early on that are of value to you today. And in October of 2018, you officially became a business owner, right? So take me through that decision, because this is something that people struggle with a lot. And that is, they're working for, let's say, somebody else, or they're working for another company in their industry, and they're debating, should I stay here? And wow, this is a pretty good job, or whatever, but I really want to own my own business. Take me through that. Was it a struggle for you? You knew right away.
Well, I think I had been contemplating it for a little longer than I let on. Mean, I was working in that position, but I don't regret it, because that company enabled me to learn how to talk to people, to learn sales, to learn the lingo, to learn insurance. Now, granted, I never thought in a million years I'd be in insurance.
Right.
That's not what when you're a kid, like, I want to be an insurance agent. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. I wanted to hunt and travel the world and do all that,
Sure.
And when I realized there's no money in it, and I started having some bills that showed up, I was like, all right, well, insurance sounds good. People have to have it. But
yeah, they do.
Leaving that company, I had planned to open an agency for that company originally. Mm-hmm. And then I just felt, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. Because I wasn't making a ton of money there. So I was thinking, like, well, I'm going to have to hire people to work in this position that I'm in, and they're going to go through this same thing. So what is their mindset going to be?
Yeah.
Probably the same as mine. I'm not making much money. I can't really, and so it'd be hard to hold on to good employees. But right about that time, when I was kind of just juggling back and forth, somebody from Goosehead reached out to me.
Yeah.
And you could say it's fate or whatever. I think they're just really good marketers. But They reached out and they said, hey, look, we have an opportunity for you. We want you to hear us out, fly out to Dallas, take a look. Now, at the time, I think there was only like 8 or 9 Goosehead agents in the state. So nobody knew who Goosehead was. And most still don't, but they're starting to make a name for themselves.
Sure.
So I was like, a Goosehead? Like, who is this? Like, I was like, okay, whatever. So I flew out there and they just blew me away with their marketing and their process and their technology and their culture mainly, because their culture is just, it's mostly 24 to 34 young, hungry, people that are ready to go. And so I took the lead. They said, here's the offer. Here's what we can do for you. We're going to have all your carriers set up. You're going to be ready to sell day one.
Wow.
And I said, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I took the leap, and then here we are.
Yeah. And, the one thing I'll say about Goosehead is they've got some great branding. I actually like their branding, and we'll talk about their slogan in a little while. I think it's cool. But being someone that does a lot with promotion, branding is something that catches my quick. Sure. And they have some great branding over there with Goosehead. So, and I like the name. I think it kind of sticks out. It's not something. Yeah, it's different. Now your office is located right here in Denham Springs. Matter of fact, it's a stone's throw from where we're at right now, filming this podcast. But when you were basically leaving where you were at, you're going to open up your Goosehead Insurance agency right here. You had a choice of where you wanted to go. And this always intrigues me with business owners is why they choose where they choose, because that I would imagine, and I know firsthand, is extremely important. Location, location, location. You chose Livingston Parish. You chose Denham Springs right here in the heart of town. How big a struggle was it for you to kind of decide where you wanted to go once you knew you wanted an insurance agency?
It was, let me first say that I never saw myself living in Denham.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't know anything about Denham.
Right.
All I heard was the LP, Livingston Parish, and whatever surrounds that stigma. And I'm just like, I don't know. My grandfather is in development and does a lot of these new developments and new neighborhoods. And he said, Ryan, don't open in Baton Rouge. Go to Livingston Parish. They are growing. It's a great area, great people. And so I said, all right. And I trust him.
Yeah.
With pretty much anything.
Sure.
He's my mentor. He's forgot more than I'll ever learn. But when he told me that, I was pretty unsure and uncertain. And I said, I trust you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because I've come to know, a lot of the people here, y'all and other business owners, and it's a lot of similarities. I felt like Livingston is a lot of our business is based off of the real estate market, obviously. We work with mortgage lenders and real estate agents, and that's Goosehead's model. It's not internet leads. It's not cold calling. It's build relationships with people in the industry. Yeah. And then once you become friends with those people, they trust you, you do a good job for them, they're going to send you business.
100%.
And so, that's why I moved out here, is because the real estate market is booming. There's development everywhere. There's people moving out here from Baton Rouge, and I'm in the process of trying to hire now because I can't keep up.
Man, that's a good problem to have, right? Frustrating, but a good problem to have.
Not good on my hair, but
yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah. Believe me. So you're essentially a broker, meaning you kind of facilitate a relationship between an insurer and an insuree, I guess would be the word there. What would you say some of the advantage are of going through a broker versus, say, a company that offers insurance directly through them?
So I tell people all the time, I feel like the other company I worked for was a captive agency, is what they call it, right? So you have one product, one offering, one price.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I work for you as a broker. I work for the person. I don't work for the company. So I'm on your team. I'm on your side. I'm shopping the market to find the best fit for you, because not everybody is made to fit, in a certain little box. Everybody is different. Some people may have poor credit. Some people may, have claims history. Some people may, so there's different companies that cater to that stuff.
100%.
So a little more work on the agent side, because we're shopping and looking around instead of just quoting one, hey, here it is, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's better for the client. So
I agree 100%. And one thing, that for someone that's on the outside, I guess, of what you do, I would say the price comparison shopping that you get out of a broker, you don't necessarily get out of a company that you're buying direct insurance from. So they can actually lay out plans for you. You could actually lay out plans for people and say, here's where you're at with this particular company and this particular company. You're not going to get that out of somebody that sells one essential product, right? So that's a huge advantage. Now, you sell personal line insurance. So kind of tell us what personal line insurance entails.
So it's basically your everyday insurance that people need, right? Home insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, flood insurance, motorcycle, RV, but whatever. We do a little bit of commercial, but that's not our bread and butter. Our bread and butter is the everyday person, homeowners, auto, flood, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and probably important to mention, one of the overlooked aspects of insurance for personal line insurance that people may not even realize is not covered under, say, their homeowners is kind of like your toys, right? Your boats, your ATVs, stuff like that. You offer separate policies for those. You have carriers that you can go through on those.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're right. A lot of people don't realize that stuff isn't just covered. I had a good friend of mine. He's actually a lender. Yeah. And so he's familiar with the industry, but he has dirt bikes and side-by-sides and all this stuff. And he said, is this stuff covered under, if something happens, is it covered under my home policy? I said, no.
Nope.
I said, no. So I said, we need to insure each one of those things individually. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. And I think a lot of people, when they buy insurance, and this is something that I guess pride myself on or take time with people with, is educating them. Because I can't tell you how many people I talk to that have no idea what they have on their insurance policy. They don't know what their deductible is. They don't know what coverage they have. They don't know what's what. And then something happens, and of course they're upset because they say, I didn't know I had a $13,000 hurricane deductible, Yeah,
and that, just came down the pipe here recently. A lot of people got a shock there. That education's important. It's huge, especially in insurance, because you don't it's not like you're referring to your insurance policy every day. Right. You only refer to it when there's a catastrophe of some sort. Sure. So that's something that you're going to get out of a Goosehead, out of a Ryan Harrell, he's going to sit down with you, and you can bring your deck page or whatever, and I'm sure you can review that with them and give them other options, things they can do. Explaining insurance is very important, because then you don't run into situations like we just had where people say, oh, I didn't know I had a higher deductible than I normally have for a hurricane. And you would think everybody knew that, but a lot of people didn't.
Most people don't.
Yeah, it shocked people. So that's something that you folks pride yourself on, is that you are going to kind of review all that, explain all those details with people and make them feel comfortable about it, right?
That's right.
So what you mentioned commercial, and I know that's not your bread and butter, but let's say a company wants to come and get some workers' comp quotes. Is that something you could do?
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. We have, when I say commercial, we do workers' comp, we do small business, we do things like that, but we don't do, big fleets of autos and big giant construction companies and big, that's just we're not set up to service that real well.
Right.
So we've put more of our focus and attention on the personal line side of it to try to be the most competitive in that space, right?
Sure.
And we've got more business than we know what to do with. But if somebody approaches me and says, Ryan, and I already have their personal home, auto, flood, whatever, and they say, hey, look, I have a little side venture I'm about to start. I want to start a podcast studio.
Yeah.
I can say, I can write insurance for that.
Yeah. There you go. So if you are in the commercial realm and you want to talk to Ryan, he'd be glad to talk to you and review those things. I know in my former life as a sales rep for a paint company, I can't tell you how many painters, workers' comp they got to have that. And a lot of them have no idea whether they're getting a great deal or a horrible deal. They don't know,
Not a clue.
Yeah. And there's some horror stories that I was told, especially in the painting industry, from painters buying insurances just directly online. And not even going through like a Goosehead, just going online and buying a spontaneous insurance policy, and guess what? Ain't even real.
No. And I can tell you, I mean, it'd be like me coming in here and jumping on the mic and pressing your buttons on your podcast.
Yeah.
I'd probably mess everything up.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's why I tell clients, they think they're better off just doing it themselves and going online and doing, and it's just, I studied for a lot of long hours to pass that insurance exam.
Oh,
and
I can imagine.
Not fun. So
yeah.
I put in the time to become a master at my craft and at my trade so I can help people to know what they have.
Yeah.
And if they have a better policy with somebody else, I'm going to tell them and be like, look, you're good where you're at. I'm not going to try to, skim coverage off and do what I need to do. I'm not that type of person. I'm going to tell you, like, you have a good policy or you don't or whatever. I'm going to just educate them.
Sure. Excellent. Now, we talked about the fact that y'all offer some flood insurance options. Look, hot topic right now is flood insurance, and really private versus public flood insurance has been a hot topic for a long time. FEMA offers their own policy, but a lot of people don't realize you're not locked into, I have to get from FEMA. There are some private flood insurance companies that you can go through, which Goosehead can, basically facilitate and get you quotes, get you all these things you need. You'd sit down with them. I was under the misconception for a long time that it was just FEMA. Nobody else offered flood insurance. Not true, right?
That's not true. You're right.
Mm.
And you're not the only one. A lot of people think that FEMA is the only flood insurance there is. A lot of people don't even know that FEMA writes the flood insurance. A lot of people just think flood insurance.
Yeah.
I need to get flood insurance. So they don't understand that there is a private market, and we have, I think, 3 or 4 private carrier options for flood, and then there's NFIP, which is the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA. And so, the private market, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm worried they won't pay out.
Yes.
I'm worried so when you think private, you don't think of Joe Blow down here with an office that offers private flood insurance. Yeah. That's not what's happening here. He's
right.
like, well, I've got $500,000 saved up in my account to pay you something. No, they're backed. Most of them are backed by Lloyd's of London, which has been around since insurance started, the 1800s.
Right.
So they're just as capable and financially stable and capable of paying out as much as the government, if not more.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because that is probably the biggest thing that stands in the way of people just dealing with NFIP versus Joe Blow with 500,000 in the bank is what happens if there's a catastrophe like what happened in Denham Springs during 2016. You've got all this money to pay out, and look, as Ryan just said, these people are backed by people that are really larger than probably the federal government as far as insurance is concerned.
They've got plenty of money.
Yeah, they got plenty of money. So you have no worries there. But I was one of those people, Ryan, that it's at one point I was like, what happens if a catastrophe happens and I'm with a company that is smaller, in perception's mind.
Sure.
So that was a concern of mine. So you bring up a really good point, and that is you ain't got to worry about it. You're gonna get your payout just as if you would if you were with FEMA.
That's
right. Now, something that a lot of people have been really, I guess, asking me about recently, and actually when I posted that you were coming on, somebody messaged me and asked me to discuss with you because they don't understand it. So it's Risk Rating 2.0, which is from my understanding as a layman, FEMA has basically recalculated the way they figure the cost of insurance.
That's right.
To insure your home.
Right.
Tell me, kind of break that down. Let's unpack that a little bit.
So, beginning last month, FEMA rolled out what's called Risk Rating 2.0. And essentially what it is, it's a new way to mitigate their risk, I guess, to rate flood insurance policies.
Yeah.
So the premise, the gist of it is that it's no longer based off of flood zone and elevation, and normally a flood zone X, C, B, that was considered a preferred flood zone, right? So if you had 250,000 in dwelling coverage and 100,000 in contents, you'd be paying in the ballpark of $572 a year across the board, no matter where you're at in Louisiana. Well, now the difference is there are no longer any preferred flood zones, essentially, is what they're doing. So they are basing it strictly off of the location of the home in relation to water. Like if you're close to a body of water or a tributary or a creek or river or something. And then also based off of the replacement value of the home. I'll just speak off of personal experience. This is what I've been seeing in flood quotes. So X flood zones are no longer a standard rate. I've seen some as high as $3,000 a year. I've seen some $700 a year, $600, $800.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this is everybody's upset about it, obviously, because they bought their house in this X flood zone and they, base their entire purchasing decision on this aspect because flood's so high in Louisiana. But there is the private flood market, which a lot of people aren't aware of, which is kind of a fallback for this. Yes. And then on the same hand, a lot of people in AE zones, the high-risk zones, we've been seeing decreases in rates.
Yeah.
So some of these houses, these 1970s, 1960s homes that were $4,000 and $5,000 a year for flood insurance are now $900 a year, $1,000 a year. So essentially, they're I hate to say it like this, but spreading the wealth. To make it to where everybody's kind of pitching in their part because flood rates are increasing and there's more flooding in the state, et cetera.
Yeah. And, they really, to me, they're basing it more off the individual home.
That's right.
Than just an area. Because that can be fair and it cannot be fair. If I've got $1 million house next to me and mine's $500,000 under the previous way that they figured all of this, I was going to pay a little bit more than probably I will now based, that person with that $1 million home, they might have had a little more of an advantage where now they're going to base it right off of that $1 million home versus the entire area. Now, the rates will be capped as far as the percentage of increase, but it's pretty high cap at 18%. Right. So, I mean, that is something that obviously people are not going to like. They're estimating 350,000 people in Louisiana probably going to have an increase, with 17,000 of those even going up higher than $10 to $20 per month of an increase.
That's right.
Which is going to look. This is exactly why you want to contact Goosehead Insurance and Ryan Harrell, because if you ever wanted to get your, I'm gonna call it checking their oil. If you ever wanted to check FEMA's oil on their rates and stuff like that, bring that to Ryan. Let Ryan look at your page and let him quote you. Get in the habit of doing an annual check, and just it doesn't hurt anything. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and this doesn't benefit me to say this, but I tell people all the time: every 2 to 3 years, shop your insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the independent model. We're able to shop it. That's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
We can shop the market for you, and I don't have to lose customers every when they start shopping, because I'll still have one product, and it's like, I can't do anything. This is it.
Right.
We have multiple. Let me shop it for you. Let me look around.
Yeah, I mean, it's shopping your flood insurance rates, homeowners insurance rates, anything to do with insurance is a smart thing to do. And really the best way to go about that is to go with these, the Goosehead Insurances of the world, where they have access to 20 different?
25, I believe.
25 different insurance carriers. All A+.
All A+. And at the moment, and I don't want to lie, or at the moment, since Hurricane Ida, insurance has gotten really tough in Louisiana to write. And, you know, Tiffany and people like that, lenders can attest to that, is they have a client who has to be at a certain, you know, their debt to income's tight or whatever the case may be. And since it's a hurricane, a lot of these insurance carriers have tightened up. You know, so they may have had a bit of a rate increase, or they may have increased a deductible, or they may only accept certain people. So that's why it's important to have multiple options, because a lot of these companies have made it harder to get low insurance rates.
Oh yeah, I mean, we live in Louisiana's a tough area for insurance anyway. As far as insurance carriers. They leave the state a lot because let's be honest, you're in a state where there's a good chance you're going to get a hurricane.
That's right.
Sometimes
at least 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Like last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's so from their perspective, I get it. Sure. It's a huge risk. Sure. And it can be tough on that front. And you bring up a good point from a lender standpoint, especially homes. That's where I'm really concerned with this risk rating 2.0 is it's going to price some people out of the market as far as once their flood insurance kicks in, they may not can afford that house anymore.
That's right. And and this is myself included, but we tend to find money for things that we want.
Right.
Right. If we want something, we will allocate the funds to get it.
Sure.
If I want a shotgun for duck season, I'm probably going to go hungry a little bit just to make sure I can afford that shotgun. So insurance isn't something that people want to spend money on, and I get it. I don't.
Right.
I'm right there with everyone else. But
you hate it till you need it.
That's right. and if people need it, they will be able to afford it somehow. And I'm not saying that this doesn't suck, because the rating, some of this is going to be uncomfortable for people. But like I said, the private flood market's there.
Yeah.
If you have FEMA and your rate keeps going up and going up and going up, call me. We can chop it through 3 or 4 different private carriers.
There you go. And that's something I would recommend, especially now, that everybody do is just check on that front and get those quotes. Now, you place a high value on the service side.
Yes.
Of what y'all do at Goosehead Insurance. How important would you say this was, especially in the insurance industry, that you really offer that good service?
Service is huge. I think even more so than sales.
Yeah.
Because your retention, we get into the insurance industry for the book of business, to retire one day, to sit back and kind of let your book work itself. So retaining those clients is huge. So we have a 100 plus, it's probably more than that now, but 3 years ago it was 100 plus person licensed service team in Dallas that are all capable of doing what I do, basically.
Right.
So once I make the initial sale, a client comes on, if they need to add a vehicle, if they have a billing question, if they have whatever they need, we have a chat option. We have obviously a phone number they can call. We have an email. We have a text option.
Yeah.
We every way you can possibly reach somebody.
Yeah.
Goosehead's got it.
Yeah, so, you make it easy for them.
Exactly. So, and then I'm always available. I think 90% of Denham has my cell phone number.
Yeah.
So my phone doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But you can always reach me or somebody. So service is huge.
Yeah, it really is. And you kind of touched on this earlier, and I couldn't agree more. And that is the importance of building relationships where you can get kind of referral business from people that you built those relationships with. And you've done several things to really work on building relationships in the Livingston Parish community. You're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. That's a big thing. My question would be, who makes for a good referral source for you? I know you work with some specific industries a little more than others, maybe, that you're able to gain that business.
Sure. Obviously real estate agents and lenders that's where we get the majority of our referrals.
Yeah.
But I've found, especially in the last year or so, now that my book of business has grown and it's gotten bigger, that I'm starting to get more just client referrals and word of mouth referrals, and people calling me saying, "Hey, such and such told me to call you to get my insurance." So, ideally anybody can be a referral source because everybody needs insurance, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm able to help you, then most of the time they're willing to reciprocate that and send somebody to me.
That's right. And it's, nothing's better than word of mouth advertising. If someone says, hey man, Ryan will take care of you, and it's a friend of a friend, you're more likely to kind of do business with Ryan Harrell in that situation, because your friend, and your friend, hey, I'm a voucher.
Trust him.
He's a good dude. Yeah. So that's very important. And I think one of the most overlooked aspects of sales is selling based off of a relationship, and not just basically saying this is what I'll offer. But what separates me is I'm going to form a relationship with you. You need me. You got questions for me, things like that. Right. I'm not hiding from the phone, putting you to voicemail and all those sorts of things. So,
and a lot of people, insurance, they just think price. They want the cheapest that they could possibly get. That's the first thing and I get it, because I do too. Everybody wants to save money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, on the same hand, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the next insurance agent may come along and offer you $5 cheaper a month.
Yeah.
Because they shopped it. But they're not going to answer your text at 9:00 at night on a Saturday. They're not going to give you the type of service and catering because I'm not naive enough to think that there's not a million other insurance agents out there doing the same thing that I'm doing. But what separates us from them is the personability, the family aspect, the relationships, like you said,
That's right.
And I've built relationships with clients and referral partners alike, and so they trust me.
There you go. And trust is probably the number one thing in insurance.
Yes.
I would say.
A lot of shady business that goes on out there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, that kind of leads me into this, and that is, I wanted to quote something in that questionnaire that I sent you. I asked you to basically give some ways in which your business stands out, and you stated by being honest and spending the time needed to explain things to clients and referrals partners alike. You would be amazed how many people have no idea who their insurance is or even what coverages they have. And we kind of discussed that a little bit earlier, but I can't hammer that down enough. I was someone that kind of prided myself with, I paid attention to things, and I'm a researcher. That's always have been. And, I got bit by that snake, and that's why I'm a big believer in private insurance, companies, and especially people like Goosehead Insurance, where they will sit down and they've got a comparison for you of not just one, not just two, but several options you can go in and take that time. How important would you say social media has been to what you do?
It's probably the number one marketing tool that I use,
Yeah.
Other than getting in the car and driving to an office and meeting somebody,
Yeah.
So everyone has a Facebook account. My grandmother, who's 70-something years old, has a Facebook account. So I'm able to reach people without ever leaving my office and market and talk to them. And, I probably get on average at least 2 or 3 leads a week just from Facebook.
Yeah.
People say, hey, I saw your post, or hey, such and such. I still have clients who just strictly communicate with me via Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, I have a phone.
Yeah.
Also, if you ever want to call me,
Yeah. I got some friends like that.
Yeah, but sometimes I miss it, because if I'm busy, I'm not always on Facebook, so I tell them to text me. But social media has been, just absolutely imperative in growing my agency.
100%, and I'll say that the great thing that I find with social media is it enables anyone to be on kind of an even playing field. We'll use Ford Motor Company as an example. Ford Motor Company, huge corporation, probably got an advertising budget that is in the millions and millions and millions. If you started a little car company and you blasted it on Facebook every day, you were good about putting your post on there and talking about all the great things about your vehicle, you're kind of on an even playing field with Ford on that front.
That's right.
Or at least as even as you can get it, because guess what? It doesn't cost anything to put a post up. Yeah. Now you boost it, it costs something. Yeah. But really, extremely inexpensive compared to some forms of advertising.
Sure.
So,
commercials, billboards, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can reach a lot for free, thousands of people for free on Facebook.
That's right. And share it. So go on Ryan's Facebook, go on, actually Goosehead Insurance, Ryan Harrell is how it's listed on Facebook. And maybe share that, ask your friends to give him a like on his social media, because the more exposure he gets, the easier it is to get your word out. And,
that's right.
And keep people informed of all the things going on, because as we talked before, insurance maybe not the most exciting of subjects, but something that people do have a legitimate interest in because they don't understand it. Sure. And so that's why this guy has got all that education and more than willing to sit down with you and discuss all that with you. Now, we talked about some of your coverages earlier, and I want to highlight those one more time. You obviously offer like some homeowners insurance through several different people, ATV insurance, any of your toys, pretty much. Sure. What about like sewer? You know how you'll have an insurance policy and it'll have I want to say a sewer stamp, but that's not the word.
An endorsement.
Endorsement. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Do you offer things like that through your policies?
Absolutely. And that you bring up a good point, because a lot of people, I don't want to talk bad about other insurance agents in the industry and stuff, but a lot of people are just worried about getting that client, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't, they'll leave off important endorsements or whatever to kind of get the rate down some to beat out other, because it's competitive. Insurance is just like real estate or lending. Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
And everybody's got an insurance agency. So, to narrow it down to one that you feel comfortable going with is tough. So I tell people, pay the extra $30 or $40 a year, $50 a year. It's nothing to get water and sewer back up on, an endorsement on your policy, because that's common. A kid throws a toy in the toilet, backs up. That's stuff that happens every day. Your sewer backs up. So there's a lot of endorsements that replacement cost on your contents. That's another big one, because people, they have actual cash value and replacement cost. Actual cash value is the depreciated value.
Right.
Takes a lot of premium off of that final number, maybe $1,200 as opposed to $1,400 a year.
Yeah.
Just from removing that. And people don't know that unless somebody tells them.
Right.
So I just tell people, be diligent, ask a lot of questions, make sure that and I'll always review people's policy. If you call me and say, hey, here's what I have currently, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to say, you have a great policy and I can't touch it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to say, there's some gaps here that we need to address, and you're exposed.
Yeah. And there may be some situations where people are overinsured.
Sure.
Maybe they have, way too much coverage on their homeowners to what they need. Yeah. So he's going to sit down with you. He's going to say, there's all these endorsement options that you have. A lot of people don't do that. They're after that sale. And so that's something that I will say, I know I look for.
And I'll tell you, I sleep good at night knowing that I may lose a sale occasionally to another insurance agent who came in cheaper, but I sleep good at night knowing that clients are protected correctly. They have low deductibles. They everything's right.
Yeah.
I know that I didn't do anything to just try to win that sale, that they might be exposed and I put them in a bad place. And then next year we have a big hurricane and then they're, stranded.
Right.
So I'd rather lose a policy here and there knowing that I've done my job correctly. Sure. And lost it a little bit on price than to have my clients exposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Goosehead doesn't, a lot of people think that Goosehead cuts the checks and we're an actual insurance company.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. We are, like you said, a facilitator. We're a middleman. So we're there to share our expertise and do the work for you to where you can go on about your day and do whatever you want to do. And we're shopping and we're doing the work. We're finding you the best policy. And at the end of the day, you call us and say, hey, what you got? I'm like, here's what I got.
Period. Make it easy. Make it easy.
But yeah, the claims aspect of it is what it is. These carriers, you're kind of at the mercy of them, but we're there to put a little pressure on them.
Sure.
If we need to get involved, if we need to call them, speak to their manager, get our people involved, we're on your side. We're there to kind of help you fast track and facilitate that claim to expedite it and get your money.
Well, and you just hit the nail on the head. You're on our side.
That's right.
Because you don't work directly for those guys. Sometimes when you buy direct from an insurance company that works for the actual insurance company, where's their best interest?
Right.
That's a good question. Where Ryan's is going to be with you because he doesn't work for none of these folks.
Mm-hmm.
They're just carriers in which he offers their policy. So we didn't talk about car insurance a whole lot. Do you offer car insurance?
We do. We have, I think currently we have about 7 different auto carriers. Mm-hmm. So not quite as many as the home.
Sure.
But we do have a good number, more than if you were with a captive carrier and you get a policy and your rate goes up the next year.
Yeah.
They can't offer you anything else because it is what it is without taking coverage off. They can say we can lower your coverage to get your rate down, but you don't want to do that. So, more often than not, we have some other options. If I write you, say, with Progressive or a company like that, and 2 years from now your rate goes up, I have 6 other auto carriers I can shop through, and we can find you something else.
That's a great thing, man. So he's shopping. He's looking out for your best interests at all times. And one more time, how often do you recommend that people review their policies in general, whether they're with you or not?
Every 2 to 3 years, I'd say, because some companies will take rate increases, rate decreases, although that seems like a unicorn and people don't think that happens. Companies actually do in Louisiana have rate decreases occasionally.
Yeah.
But I tell people they'll tell me, Ryan, I haven't filed a claim ever and my rate keeps going up. What's going on? And I'm like, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's the system. It's society. I mean, cars are getting more expensive. To replace a bumper on my truck is, $5,000 because of the sensors and the whatever. So,
the state you live in makes a difference.
Lawsuits. I mean, you see a Gordon McKernan billboard every 5 feet on the interstate. So, a lot of factors play into that, into the rating. So it's not your fault. It's not you. But that's why I like to be able to shop and give them options if their rates go up. And
100%. Very good. So we do fun facts on this show, and you were no exception for our fun facting. And we asked you some. We asked you if you purchased a yacht, what would you name it? And you said high tech redneck. I like that one. That's a great one. Of course, you're a hunter. You like to hunt. You like to fish. Outdoors. You're an outdoors guy, right?
That's right.
Very good. Which some people may be surprised an insurance agent is a outdoorsy type guy, but Ryan isn't.
I just got back this weekend from Mississippi from planting food plots and working. That's my getaway. I'd rather work out in the woods and be away for a little while, before I have to come back and get in the office. So.
Very good. Now, I asked you what job you wanted when you were 12, and leading right into that, you wanted to be in the hunting industry, working outdoors. Was kind of your thing. Now you do it for fun, not for work.
That's right.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be? I agree with this one 100%. Flight, without question.
I mean,
yeah, that's hard to beat. If you could travel anywhere in the world, you said the Vatican and Rome or Ireland, and that was interesting because that's 2 places I would go.
Really?
Yeah. So
I've always wanted to do that.
I'd love to go to the Vatican, and Ireland definitely way up there on my list. That's a beautiful country from the pictures I've seen.
Yeah, from Google.
I did get to Alaska, and I highly recommend it if you've never been.
I haven't.
You would love it.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's outdoors of outdoors.
I've heard it's beautiful up there. A friend of mine just got back. He won a moose hunt in Alaska. And
wow.
He just got back, and the pictures he said it's unreal.
It is, man. I mean, eagles fly around like sparrows around here. I mean, they're just everywhere.
Crazy.
Just crazy. So we talked about earlier, speaking of flying, we talked about what your tagline was at Goosehead Insurance, and it is come fly with us. And, obviously geese fly.
That's right.
So, it's a play off that. But go check out Goosehead Insurance's branding. It is just really neat, and it catches your eye, and I'll tell you what, you can't forget the name.
No.
You cannot forget it. Now, let's shout out your Facebook, your website, your phone number for those that want to get more information. Look, it's going to be ringing off the hook now.
I'm ready.
You done opened the doors.
There's going to be nothing new.
That's it. Give a shout out to your Facebook and website and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of people, I mean, like I said, everybody has my personal cell phone.
Yeah.
It's but my office number, which routes to my cell phone, so essentially it's the same thing. It's 225-304-6808. And then on Facebook, you can follow me on my personal page, which is just Ryan Harrell, Harrell. which is where I do a lot of my stuff. And then my business page is Goosehead Insurance, Ryan Harrell. So.
Awesome. Check all that out. And did you have fun today, man?
I had a blast, Jim.
Look, I get to do this every day, Ryan.
I might end up selling my agency and opening a podcast.
Look, you can co-host with me anytime. We'll tear it up. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate us talking about insurance. And anytime you want to come on in the future, let me know. You know, insurance changes all the time, so it's something that definitely deserves its just due on the airwaves. I do want to thank everyone out there for viewing and listening to Local Leaders, a podcast. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share us on all your social media platforms. Thanks to all our sponsors, including Tricia Johnston Realtor, BJ Pawn, Fit Blendz Denham Springs, Blaksheep Creative, SR Enterprise, Idell Lane, Spawn Boutique, and Fit Body Boot Camp. Couldn't do all this without all of you, and I really mean that. If you would like information on sponsoring or appearing on the show, reach out to me at jim@localleadersthepodcast.com. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business like Ryan Harrell's Goosehead Insurance, and keep leading. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.